element. First of all, I'm going to change the position of the h3 heading element. Let's set position to absolute. Then we need position relative for the blog post, which is the parent element. So we need here position relative. Then I'm going to add here bottom position with the value 0. Then we need left position 0. Also, let's change padding, make it 1 rem. Then I'm going to change the background color. Let's use here RGBA color with black color and the opacity 0.7. Actually, we need to define the width. Let's set it to 100%. Let's check the results. So as you can see, the titles are aligned. Now we have to add some more styles to them. So I'm going to add here border radius. We need rounded corners at the bottom left and bottom right corners. So therefore the values will be 0, 0, 1 rem, and again 1 rem. Then we need to change the font size. Let's set it to 1.6 rem. Also, I'm going to make the font lighter using font weight 300. Then let's transform text to uppercase. Change the line height. I'm going to set it to 1.6 rem. And also make the color of the text white. Let's go to the browser. So as you can see, the headings, the titles look pretty nice. Next, I'm going to add one more property to the heading. It's going to be overflow wrap with the value break word. So this CSS property controls how words should be broken when they reach the end of a line within an element. This property ensures that long words will break and wrap onto the next line if they do not fit within the container. This prevents overflow and ensures that text does not extend beyond the boundaries of the element. Alright, so that's it about the heading. Next, I'm going to customize the buttons. Let's select the wrapper development, post buttons. I'm going to define the position as absolute. Then we need to position to be 1 rem. Then right position is going to be 1 rem as well. Also, we need display flags. I'm going to place them in the center using justify content center. Then we need gap. With column gap, it's going to be equal to 2 rem. Let's check the results. So here we have the buttons. After that, I'm going to customize the buttons themselves. So let's go ahead and select post buttons followed by the button element. Let's set background color to transparent. Also, I'm going to get rid of default border. Let's set it to none. Then I'm going to increase the font size, make it 2.5 rem. Change the color, make it white. And also, I'm going to make cursor pointer. Okay, so here we have the buttons. Right now, they look pretty nice. Next, I'm going to make them hidden by default. And once we hover over the blog post, they should appear. For that, I'm going to add here opacity 0 and visibility hidden. Then we have to select blog post with hover, pseudo class. Then we need to select post buttons. Actually, we need post buttons. And let's grab those two properties. We need opacity 1 and visibility visible. And also, in order to create smooth effect, let's use transition with all and with a duration 0.3 seconds. So once we hover over the blog post, then the buttons will appear. Okay, so this new section will serve as the area where users can see their blog posts. In the next lecture, we will focus on the functionality for submitting the post. We will set up the necessary logic to handle user input, upload images, and ultimately create and display new blog posts. In this lecture, we'll take this functionality a step further by implementing the ability to submit posts from the blog section and display them in my blog section within the news component. Each blog post will include image, title, and content, And additionally, we will make sure that if the user does not upload an image, a default placeholder image will be displayed. Alright, so let's dive in and bring these features to life. We are going to set up the state management and functions needed to handle blog posts in our app.jsx component. This is where we will store the list of blog posts and define the function to add new posts. So we're going to create a state variable. Let's call it blocks. Then we need an updater function, set blocks, and it should be equal to useState. And I'm going to set the state variable to an empty array. So the purpose of this state variable is to hold an array of blog posts that users create within the application. By initializing blocks as an empty array, we are setting up a place to store all the blog posts that will be added by users. Whenever a new blog post is created, we will use setBlocks to add the new post to the existing list of blocks. This will ensure that the new post is rendered and displayed in the MyBlock section of the news component. Now we're going to define a function called handleCreateBlog. The purpose of this function is to add a new blog post to the list of existing blog posts stored in the blog's state variable. So I'm going to create a new function and I'm going to call it handleCreateBlog. It should be equal to an arrow function with a parameter new block. So this function takes a single parameter new block, which represents the new blog post object that we want to add to our list of blog posts. Now inside the function, I'm going to use setBlocks function, in which I'm going to insert an arrow function, the callback function, with the parameter prevBlocks. And then I'm going to add here, I'm going to return an array with spread operator. Let's insert here prevBlocks. And then I'm going to add here new block. So inside the function, we call setBlocks to update the state of blocks. We pass an arrow function to setBlocks. This arrow function takes the current state value prevBlocks as its argument. prevBlocks represents the current array of blog posts before adding the new post. Within the arrow function, we use the spread operator to create a new array that includes all the elements from prevBlocks followed by the new block object. The spread operator allows us to concatenate the new blog post to the existing array of blog posts. The result of the arrow function, which is the new array of blog posts including the new one, is then used by setBlocks to update the block's state. React will re-render the component with the updated state, reflecting the newly added blog post in the UI. So again, whenever a user submits a new blog post through the form in the blocks component, the form data is collected and passed as an object, new block, to the handleCreateBlog function. This object will contain properties like image, title, and content, which represent the details of the new blog post. By calling setBlocks, the function updates the block state with the new array that includes the newly created blog post. This ensures that the new blog post is added to the existing list of blog posts without modifying the original array directly. Okay, so hopefully you understand what this function does. Next, we have to pass props to the news and blogs components. So as you remember, we have here news and blogs components. So I'm going to pass here blogs with the value blogs. As for the blogs components, I'm going to add here on create blog prop, which should be equal to handle create blog. So the blogs prop is passed to the news component so that it can access and display the list of blog posts stored in the blog state of the app component. In the news component, we will use this prop to render the list of blog posts in the My Blogs section. By passing the blocks array, we ensure that the news component has the necessary data to display the user-generated content. Then we have onCreateBlogProp, it is passed to the blocks component to provide a way for it to communicate back to the app component when a new blog post is created. In the blocks component, we will call the onCreateBlock function when the form is submitted to create a new blog post. This function, defined in the app component, updates the blog state with the new post, ensuring that the new post is added to the list and displayed in the UI. Next, I'm going to move to the blocks.jsx file, where we will handle the image upload and form submission for creating new blog posts. First of all, we have to insert in the blocks function prop onCreateBlock, which we pass to the blocks component in the app.jsx file. So we have to pass here onCreateBlock, and after that we need to create new state variable, which is going to be image, and then we need set image function to update the state variable. It should be equal to useState, and as the default value I'm going to pass here null. So the purpose of this state variable is to hold the data of the image that the user uploads when creating a new blog post. By initializing image with a value of null, we indicate that there is no image data initially. The image state will store the base 64 representation of the uploaded image. This format allows us to easily display the image within our application. The setImage function is used to update the image state. Whenever the user selects a new image file, we will read the file and store its base 64 data in this state variable. This way, the uploaded image is ready to be used when the user submits the blog post. By managing the image data with this state variable, we ensure that the image is properly handled and included in the blog post when it is created. After that, I'm going to create second state variable, which is going to be title. Then we need setTitle function. It's going to be equal to useState, and the default value will be an empty string. So this state variable is responsible for holding the title of the blog post that the user enters. We initialize title with an empty string to indicate that no title has been entered yet. The title state will store the text that the user inputs in the title field of the blog post form. This text represents the headline or name of the blog post. The setTitle function is used to update the title state. As the user types in the title field, we will use this function to update the state with the current value of the input. This ensures that we always have the latest title text ready to be included in the blog post. By managing the title with this state variable, we ensure that the user's input is captured and can be used when the blog post is created. Now, I'm going to create another state variable, and it's going to be content, and then we need setContent function. This state variable will be equal to useState, and here I'm going to insert again an empty string. So this state variable is used to hold the content of the blog post that the user writes. Similar to the title state, we initialize content with an empty string, indicating that no content has been entered yet. The content state will store the text that the user inputs in the content field of the blog post form. This text represents the main body or text of the blog post. Then we have here setContent function. It is used to update the content state. As the user types in the content field, we will use this function to update the state with the current value of the input. This ensures that we always have the latest content text ready to be included in the blog post. By managing the content with the state variable, we ensure that the user's input is captured and can be used when the blog post is created. So in summary, by creating and managing these state variables, image, title, and content, we effectively capture the user's input for each part of the blog post. The image state holds the uploaded image data, the title state holds the text for the blog post title, and the content state holds the main body text of the blog post. These state variables ensure that all the necessary data is collected and ready to be used when the user submits a new blog post. Now we're going to create a function called handleImageChange. The purpose of this function is to handle the image upload process. When a user selects an image file from their device, it reads the selected file, converts it into a format that we can easily use within our application, and updates the state with this data. So let's go ahead and create new function, and it's going to be handle image change. We need an arrow function with an event object. So this function takes an event object as its parameter. This event object is automatically passed by the browser when an event occurs, such as when the user selects a file. Now inside that function, I'm going to insert an if statement. I'm going to add here a condition, and then I'll explain. So we need here e.target.files. Then we need an operator, and again e.target.files with an index number 0. So inside the function, we first check if there are any files selected by the user. The e.target.files property contains a list of all the files selected by the user. If e.target.files is truthy and it contains at least one file, then we proceed with the image processing. This check ensures that we only proceed if the user has actually selected a file. It prevents errors that could occur if the function is triggered without any file being selected. After that, I'm going to create here new variable. It's going to be reader, and it's going to be equal to new file reader. So we create a new instance of the file reader object. The file reader object allows us to read the contents of files stored on the user's computer. It provides methods to read file data in various formats, such as text or base64 encoded strings. The file reader object is essential for reading the contents of the selected file and converting it into a format that can be easily used within our application. Now, inside the if statement, right after this line of code, we need following. We need reader.onload, and it should be equal to an arrow function. And then I'm going to insert here set image function with the value reader.result. So we define here an event handler for the onload and event of the file reader object. This event is triggered when the file reading operation is completed. Inside the onload and event handler, we call the setImage function to update the image state with the result of the file reading operation. The reader.result property contains the base64 encoded data of the selected image file. By updating the image state with the reader.result, we store the base64 representation of the uploaded image. This format allows us to easily display the image within our application. So once the image is read, we have to convert it so that it would be usable in our JSX. So right after here, we need reader. Then we have to use one of the functions called read as data URL. And as the argument, I'm going to insert here e.target.files. And we need the first item. Therefore, we have to pass here index number 0. So here we call read as data URL method of the file reader object, passing the first file in the e.target.files list as an argument. The read as data URL method reads the contents of the file and converts it into a base64 encoded string. Converting the file into a base64 encoded string allows us to use the image data directly in our HTML as a data URL. This format is convenient for embedding images directly within the page without needing to upload them to a server. So again, the handle image change function is responsible for handling the image upload process in our application. We check for selected files to ensure that a file is selected before proceeding. Then we create file reader object to use the file reader API to read the file contents. Next, we define onload and event handler to set up an event handler to update the state with the file data once reading is complete. And finally, we read file as data URL to convert the file into a base64 encoded string, making it easy to use within our application. By following these steps, the handle image change function effectively reads the selected image file, converts it into a usable format, and updates the state to store the image data. This ensures that the uploaded image is ready to be included in the blog post when the user submits the form. Now we have to move on and create a function called handleSubmit. The purpose of this function is to handle the form submission process. When a user creates a new blog post, it will gather the input data, create a new blog post object, and update the state accordingly. So here, after this function, I'm going to create another one. Let's call it handleSubmit. It should be equal to an arrow function, which will take parameter event object. So this function takes an event object as its parameter. This event object is automatically passed by the browser when an event occurs, such as when the form is submitted. Now inside here, I'm going to insert e.prevent default. Actually, you already know about this function, but I will explain anyway. So this method prevents the default behavior of the form submission, which is to reload the page. Preventing the default form submission behavior allows us to handle the form data with JavaScript, ensuring a smooth user experience without a full page reload. Now inside the function, I'm going to create new variable, and it's going to be new blog. This variable is going to be an object in which we will have three properties. The first one will be image, then we will have title, and then content. So we create an object called new blog that represents the new blog post. This object includes the following properties: image, title, and content. The image property is set to the value stored in the image state variable. The title property is set to the value stored in the title state variable. This is the text that the user will enter in the title field of the form. The content property is set to the value stored in the content state variable. This is the main body text that the user will enter in the content field of the form. Now, after this object, I'm going to call onCreateBlog function with the argument new blog. So we call the onCreateBlog function, passing the new blog object as an argument. The onCreateBlog function is a prop passed to the blocks component, which updates the state in the app component to include the new blog post. I mean this prop here inside the app component. So calling onCreateBlog ensures that the new blog post is added to the list of blog posts managed by the app component. This function updates the state with the new blog post and triggers a re-render displaying the new post in the My Blog section. After that, we have to clear the form fields. So at first we need set image with the value null. It resets the image state to null, clearing the image selection. Then we have set title. I'm going to set it to an empty string. It resets the title state to an empty string. And finally, we need set content with the value an empty string. It resets the content state to an empty string. So clearing the form fields ensures that the form is ready for a new blog post entry, improving the user experience by resetting the form to its initial state. Next, we have to hide the form, and for that we have to update show form state variable. So we need here set show form function with the value false. Hiding the form after submission, the blog post provides visual feedback to the user, indicating that their blog post has been successfully submitted and allowing them to view their post without the form being in the way. Okay, so by following these steps, the handleSubmit function ensures that the new blog post is properly created, added to the list of blog posts, and displayed in the My Blog section. This function provides a seamless experience for users to create and manage their blog posts within the application. Now we have to update the JSX in blogs.jsx component. First of all, we have to update the form element to include the onSubmit event handler. The purpose of this attribute is to specify a function that will be called when the form is submitted. So here we need to insert onSubmit event handler, and then we need function handleSubmit. So when the form is submitted, the handleSubmit function is called. This function is responsible for handling the form submission, creating a new blog post object, and updating the state. The onSubmit handler ensures that the form data is processed correctly and that the new blog post is added to the list of blog posts when the user submits the form. Now we're going to update the file input element to include the onChange handler. The purpose of this attribute is to specify a function that will be called when the user selects a file. So we need input element with the type file, and here we have to pass onChange event handler, and as the value I'm going to insert handle image change function. So when the user selects a file, the handle image change function is called. This function reads the selected file, converts it into a base 64 encoded string, and updates the image state variable. The onChange handler ensures that the uploaded image is properly processed and stored in the state, ready to be included in the new blog post when the form is submitted. Now we're going to update the title input element to include the value and onChange handlers. These attributes are essential for managing the state of the title input field. So here we need value with the value title. The value attribute is set to the title state variable. This ensures that the input field displays the current value of the title state. By setting the value attribute to title, we bind the input field to the title state variable. This creates a controlled component where the input field's value is controlled by the state. Next, we need onChange event handler, and we have to pass here a callback function with the event object, and then we need to call setTitle function with the argument e.target.value. So the onChange handler is called whenever the user types in the input field. This function updates the title state variable with the current value of the input field. The onChange handler ensures that the title state variable is always updated with the latest input from the user. This way, the state accurately reflects the current value of the title input field. Next, we are going to update the content text area element to include the value and onChange handlers. These attributes are essential for managing the state of the content text area field. So like the input field, we need here value with the value content, and then onChange event handler, in which we have to pass a callback function with the event object, and we have to update content using setContent function with the argument e.target.value. So in the same way, the onChange handler is called whenever the user types in text area field. This function updates the content state variable with the current value of the text area field. The onChange handler ensures that the content state variable is always updated with the latest input from the user. This way, the state accurately reflects the current value of the content text area field. Alright, so by updating the JSX in the blogs.jsx component to include these handlers, we ensure that our form is fully functional and interactive. Next, we have to update the news component. So let's go to the news.jsx file. The first thing that we have to do is to bring in the prop called blogs, and we have to pass it in the news function. So we need here blogs. As you remember, it is a prop from the app component. After that, we have to update the My Blog section so that we display the submitted blog post. Right now, we have here a hard-coded data, so we have to replace it with the dynamic one. We will use the map function to iterate over the blocks array and render each blog post. This approach allows us to dynamically generate the content based on the data stored in the blog's state variable. So right after here, I'm going to open curly braces, then we need blocks, followed by the map function, and we have to pass here a callback function with two parameters, blog and index. So we start by using the map function on the blocks array. The map function iterates over each element in the array, applying the provided function to each element and returning a new array of elements. The map function allows us to create a list of JSX elements dynamically based on the blocks array. Each element in the blocks array will represent a blog post, and the map function will help us render each post in the UI. So here the map function takes a callback function with two parameters, blog, which is a current element being processed in the array. In this case, it represents a single blog post object. And then we have index, which is an index of the current element in the array. This is useful for providing a unique key for each rendered element. So here we have to pass a div element with key prop, which should be equal to index. And besides that, we need class name, blog post. Let's grab this class name from here. So inside the map function, we return a div element for each blog post. This div element will contain the content of the blog post. The key attribute is set to the index value. As you remember, in React, each element in a list should have a unique key to help React identify which items have changed, been added or removed. The key attribute improves the performance of the rendering process and helps React manage the list of elements efficiently. So now we have to include this data inside the blog post. I'm going to copy image. Let's insert it here. As the source, I'm going to insert here blog.image. As for the alt attribute, as the value, let's insert here blog.title. So the source attribute is set to the image property of the blog object. This specifies the source URL of the image to be displayed. By setting the source attribute to blog.image, we ensure that the correct image is displayed for each blog post. As for the alt attribute, it is set to the title property of the blog object. Next, we need h3 heading element, which right now is hard-coded. So instead of that text, I'm going to insert here blog.title. So the content inside the h3 heading element is set to the title property of the blog object. This displays the title text of the blog post. All right, finally, I'm going to insert here paragraph. And as the content, we need here blog.content. So here we don't have paragraph because by default the content of the blog post is not displayed. If you want to access the content of the blog post, you have to open model. Right now we don't have model, so that's why I include the paragraph right here. All right, so I'm going to copy the buttons and paste them here, and then we can delete those blog posts. We no longer need this hard-coded data, so let's get rid of them. All right, so now we can test if this code works. Let's go to the browser, then click user, click create new post. At first, I'm going to upload the image. Let's upload this one. Then I'm going to enter here the title. This is my first blog post. Also, I'm going to insert here some content. Let's insert this is content of my first blog post. Click submit button, then go back to the news component, and here we go. We have here blog post displayed in the my blogs section. So here we have the image, the title of the blog post, and also the content of the blog post. I'm going to hide it for a while. Let's comment this line out. Then I'm going to add another post. Let's select different image. Then I'm going to insert here, this is my second post. As for the content, I'm going to insert here, this is my second blog posts content. Let's submit. So here we have the second blog post. Alright, so everything works perfectly so far. And before we finish this lecture, I want to add one feature to the blog section. If the user doesn't upload the image, I want to display a placeholder image that will show that the blog post does not have the image. So for that, we have to go back to the VS Code. Then in the blogs component, I'm going to import image called no image. As you remember, we have no image here in the images folder. I mean this image here. So I'm going to use this image here as well. Let's change the name of the image. It's going to be no image.png. All right. So after that, in the handle submit function, we need here image, then image, or no image. Also in the news component, I'm going to find image. We have it. We need here or operator and no image. All right, so let's go to the browser, submit new post. Let's add here test, then test, click submit button, go back to the news component, and here we go. We have here no image as the placeholder image, and so everything works perfectly. All right, great job everyone. We covered how to handle image uploads, manage form inputs, and dynamically render blog posts based on the data stored in our state. We will continue enhancing the blog section by adding more features, such as displaying a submission message to confirm that a post has been successfully created and validating form fields to ensure that the users provide all the necessary information before submitting a post. In this lecture, we will take our blog section to the next level by adding features for displaying a submission message, navigating back to the news page after a successful post submission, and validating the form fields. These enhancements will improve the user experience and ensure that our blog posts are created with all the necessary information. So now we're going to create a new state variable named submitted and a corresponding function setSubmitted to manage the state of whether a blog post has been submitted or not. So here I'm going to create new state variable, and it's going to be submitted. And then, as I said, we need a function called setSubmitted. Next, we need useStateHook, and we have to set submitted state variable to false. So the submitted state variable holds a Boolean value that indicates whether a blog post submission has occurred. Initially, it is set to false, meaning no submission has taken place yet. This variable will be used to conditionally render the submission message, providing visual feedback to the user when a post has been successfully submitted. The setSubmitted function will be used to update the value of the submitted state variable. By calling this function, we can change the state to either true or false. Now we have to update our JSX content in order to display the submission message. Right now we use conditional rendering here to display either form or create new post button. Once we are going to add here a submission message, we have to change here things. I'm going to get rid of this conditional rendering at all. So let's go ahead and delete this line of code. Then I'm going to delete those parentheses. And also we have to get rid of this line as well. All right. So now I'm going to manage hiding and displaying the form element in the following way. Let's go ahead and find blocks write form. Now here I'm going to wrap the class name with curly braces, and then I'm going to change quotes to template literal. Now here I'm going to add the following. We need $sign followed by the curly braces, and here we have to use conditional rendering. I mean, we need to pass here show form state variable, then a ternary operator, and we have to pass here two classes. The first one will be visible, and then I'm going to add here hidden. So this line of code conditionally applies either the visible or hidden class to the div element based on the value of the showForm state variable. This allows us to control the visibility of the form for creating a new blog post. Inside the curly braces, there is a Boolean state variable that indicates whether the form should be shown, whether the value of showForm should be true or hidden with the value false. If showForm is true, the expression evaluates to visible. If showForm is false, the expression evaluates to hidden. Now in the CSS file, we have to add the following. Let's go ahead and find blocks right form. Here we have it. Visible. Then I'm going to grab this selector. Let's change visible to hidden and add here display none. Alright, let's go to the browser, go to the blocks component, click create new post, and so as you can see, the form is visible. Now we have to take care of the create new post button because as you saw here, once we click it, it should be hidden. Right now it is visible. So let's fix that problem. First of all, we have to update submitted state variable. Once we submit a post, we have to set submitted state variable to true. So we have to do it here. Let's use set submitted and make the submitted state variable true. Now we need to update the JSX. Let's add here curly braces. Then we need the following condition. We need not showForm followed by the AND operator. Actually, we need here show. Then after AND operator, I'm going to add not submitted. Again, we need here AND operator. And now we have to pass here create new post button. Let's cut this element from here and paste it here. So this code conditionally renders the create new post button based on the values of the showForm and submitted state variables. The not operator negates the value of showForm. If showForm is false, not showForm will be true. This condition checks whether the form is not currently being shown. Similarly, the not operator negates the value of submitted. If submitted is false, not submitted will be true. This condition checks whether the submission message is not currently being shown. The combined condition, not showForm and not submitted, uses the logical AND operator. It ensures that both conditions must be true for the code inside the parentheses to be executed. If either showForm or submitted is true, the condition will be false and the button will not be rendered. So again, when the component is first rendered, both showForm and submitted are false. Therefore, not showForm and not submitted evaluates to true, and the create new post button is rendered. When the user clicks the create new post button, the onClick event handler sets showForm to true. This causes the combined condition not showForm and not submitted to evaluate to false, and it will cause hiding the button. So now, if we click here, then click create new post, the form will be shown and the create new post button will be hidden. Okay, so everything works perfectly. Let's go back to the VS Code. Next, we have to create the submission message, and we need to use again conditional rendering. So right after here, I'm going to open again curly braces. Then we need the condition submitted, followed by the AND operator. And now we have to create paragraph with the class name submission message. The text is going to be post submitted. So this line of code conditionally renders a paragraph element displaying the submission message post submitted based on the value of the submitted state variable. The first part directly checks the value of the submitted state variable. If submitted is true, then the condition will be met and the code on the right side will be executed. Now let's go to the browser. I'm going to submit the post. Let's add here title, test, then the content test, click submit button. So here we have message post submitted, which right now is not quite visible. If I select all the elements, you will find here post submitted. Now we have to add some styles to this message here. Let's go back to the VS Code and I'm going to add here submission message. Let's increase the font size. It's going to be 6 rand. Then I'm going to make text uppercase. Also, I'm going to use some gradient effects with the color of the text. So let's use background with linear gradient function. I'm going to change the direction of the color transition. It's going to be to right. Then the first color will be this one here. As for the second color, I'm going to add here this color. Alright, so we have already used the linear gradient with text elements. And as you remember, we need to add here 2 different properties with WebKit prefix. So we need here WebKit background clip. And it's going to be text. As for the second property, it's going to be WebKit text field color. And it should be transparent. Okay, so let's go to the browser. As you see, we have here nice and cool message post submitted. Alright, so now the next thing that we have to do is to display the submission message for 3 seconds and then navigate back to the news component. Let's go back to the VS Code. In here, I'm going to add set timeout function, which will take 2 parameters. The first one is a callback function. As for the second parameter, we have to add here the amount of time. It's going to be 3000 milliseconds. Now I'm going to add here set submitted, which should be false. Actually, we need here false. Then in order to go back to the news component, we have to call on back function. Okay, so this code is used to delay the execution of 2 actions, hiding the submission message and navigating back to the news page. The actions are performed 3 seconds after a blog post is successfully submitted. The set timeout is a built-in JavaScript function that sets a timer to execute a specified function after a certain delay. The first parameter is a callback function, which contains the code to be executed after the specified delay. The second parameter is the delay in milliseconds. In this case, it is set to 3000 milliseconds. An anonymous arrow function is defined as the callback function for set timeout. This function contains the actions to be executed after the delay. Set submitted false updates the submitted state variable to false. This action hides the submission message. By setting submitted to false, we ensure that the condition in the JSX where we render a submission message evaluates to false, removing the submission message from the UI. Next, we have onBack function. It is called to navigate back to the news page. As you remember, this function passed as a prop to the blocks component in the app.jsx file. I mean this prop here. It is responsible for switching the view from the blocks page back to the news page. Alright, let's go to the browser and check if it works. Let's submit the post. Now we have post submitted for 3 seconds and we are navigated back to the news component. So that's it about the submission message. Now we have to take care of the form validation. At first we need to create some state variables. These state variables will be used to manage the validation status of the title and content fields in the form. They will help determine whether the user has entered valid input in these fields. So let's create new state variables. The first one is going to be title valid. And then we need an updater function set title valid. It's going to be equal to useState, and as the default value, I'm going to add here true. So this state variable holds the current validation status of the title input field. It can be either true or false. This state variable will be used to keep track of whether the title input field contains valid input. When the user types in the title field, this variable helps determine if the input meets the validation criteria. The set title valid function will be used to update the validation status of the title input. Now, I'm going to add here second state variable. It's going to be content valid, followed by the set content valid function. It's going to be equal to useState, and then we need the default value true. So this state variable holds the current validation status of the content input field. Like the title valid state variable, it can be either true or false. This state variable is used to keep track of whether the content input field contains valid input. So in summary, the title valid and content valid state variables are used to manage the validation status of the title and content input fields in the form. Now we have to create two functions, handle title change and handle content change. These functions will be essential for managing user input in our form. They will update the state of the title and content fields and ensure that the input remains valid. So let's go ahead and create the first function. It's going to be handle input, actually not input but title change. We need here an arrow function with the parameter e. So the handle title change function will be designed to handle changes to the title input field. It will ensure that the title does not exceed 60 characters and update the state variables accordingly. Here the parameter e represents the event object that is passed automatically when an event is triggered. Now I'm going to add here an if statement with the following condition. We need e.target.value is less than or equal to 60. This line checks the length of the input value. The e.target.value represents the current value of the title input field. The condition ensures that the title is not longer than 60 characters. Limiting the title length to 60 characters ensures that the input remains within acceptable limits and provides a better user experience by preventing overly long titles. Now we have to add here set title, and we have to add e.target.value. If the title length is within the limit, this line updates the title state variable with the current input value. Keeping the title state up to date ensures that the component has the latest value of the title input, which is necessary for form submission and rendering the input value in the form. Next we need set title valid, and we have to make it true. So this line of code sets the title valid state variable to true, indicating that the title input is valid. Updating the validation state to true provides feedback that the input is valid, which can be used to conditionally apply CSS classes. Now we have to create second function. Let's call it handle content change. We need here an arrow function with event object. So this function is responsible for handling changes to the content input field. It will update the state variables for the content and its validation status. Like previous function, the parameter e represents the event object that is passed automatically when an event is triggered. Now, as I said, we have to update set content, and we have to pass here e.target.value. So this line updates the content state variable with the current input value. The e.target.value represents the current value of the content input field. Keeping the content state up to date ensures that the component has the latest value of the content input, which is necessary for submission and rendering the input value in the form. Next, we need set content valid, and we have to make it true. So the same thing that we used here in case of handle title change. Alright, so in summary, both handle title change and handle content change functions are essential for managing the state of the title and content input fields in our form. They ensure that the component always has the latest input values and maintain the validation status of these fields. Now we have to update the JSX and call both functions onChange. So here down below we have onChange event handlers, and we have here callback functions where we update the title and the content. Instead of those functions, we need handle title change, and then handle content change. Now we need to add a validation logic to ensure that the user provides both a title and content before submitting the form. This validation logic will help us prevent form submission if either field is empty. So inside the handle submit function, we have to pass here if statement with the following condition. We need not title followed by the or operator, and then not content. So this line of code checks if either the title or content state variables are empty. As you know, the not operator negates the value, so not title returns true if title is an empty string or null. Similarly, not content returns true if content is an empty string or null. Ensuring that both the title and content fields are filled out before allowing form submission is crucial for data integrity. So now, inside here, we need another if with the condition not title. And then we have to add here set title valid and make it false. So if the title field is empty, this line sets the title valid state variable to false using the set title valid function. Setting title valid to false provides feedback that the title input is invalid. This feedback can be used to apply the conditional styling. We need the exact similar thing for content as well. So I'm going to duplicate this line of code. Instead of title, let's insert content. And then we need set content valid. And finally, we have to add here return statement. The return statement exits the handle submit function early if either the title or content fields are empty, preventing the form submission when required fields are empty, ensures that only valid and complete data is submitted. If any of the fields are empty, it prevents the form from being submitted and provides feedback to the user. This ensures that the user is aware of the required fields and that only valid and complete data is submitted. By updating the validation state, we can conditionally apply styling or display error messages guiding the user to provide the necessary information. In our cases, we will change the style of the forms. Now it's time to update the class names of the input fields so that we could add new styling rules to them. We need to ensure that our input fields provide visual feedback to users when their input is invalid. This can be achieved by conditionally applying CSS classes based on the validation state. Let's go ahead and find input. I'm in the first input. So here, instead of this class name, we need at first curly braces. Then we have to change quotes to template literal. Next we need $sign followed by the curly braces. And we have to check here not title valid. So if the condition is true, then we need invalid class name. And if it is false, we need an empty class name. So we set here the class name attribute for the title input field. We use a template literal to conditionally include the invalid class based on the title valid state. The expression in the curly braces evaluates whether to include the invalid class. The not operator negates the title valid state. If title valid is false, not title valid is true. If not title valid is true, the expression returns invalid. I mean the class name invalid. If not title valid is false, the expression returns an empty string. By conditionally applying the invalid class, we can change the appearance of the input field to indicate invalid input. This provides immediate visual feedback to the user, improving the user experience. Now, in the exact same way, we have to customize the class name of the text area element. So actually, I'm going to grab this class name from here. Let's add it here. So instead of title input, we need text input. Then we need here content valid. As for the rest of the code, it should remain the same. Okay, so now it's time to write some CSS. Let's go ahead and find input elements. So right after here, I'm going to select title. Actually, not here, but here. So let's go ahead and select title input, followed by the invalid class. Next, I'm going to duplicate this line of code. We need here text input. So if the input fields are invalid, then we need to change the color of the border at the bottom. Let's add here 0.1 rem, then solid. As for the color, I'm going to use here C4143A. In the same way, we have to change the placeholders, I mean the colors of the placeholders. So I'm going to grab these codes. Let's add them here. We need here placeholders. And then we have to change the property. We need here color. Okay, let's go to the browser. So if I leave both inputs empty and click submit button, then they will change their style. We have here red placeholders and red borders. If I start to type, then the colors will be changed back to the default colors. The same will happen here. Actually, no. I cannot type here anything. So let's go back to the VS Code. We need to find the handle title change function. So we check here if the characters are less than 60. So before the if statement, we have to update title state variable. We need this value here. Now let's check the browser, start to type, and so here we go. We are able to type. Let's actually check if we can add here more than 60 characters, and I think we can, and that's actually a problem. So let's go back to the VS Code. Well, we have another way to fix that problem, and actually a simple way without any JavaScript. We can add here max length attribute. Let's make it 60. Then I think that we no longer need this if statement at all. Let's just grab this line of code and put it outside of the if statement, and then get rid of the if statement at all. Now let's go to the browser. I'm going to test if we can put here more than 60 characters. Let's add here numbers from 1 through 0. Then I'm going to copy it. Let's add it a couple of times. So as you can see, we no longer add here more than 60 characters. So now everything works fine. The form is validated, and also the submission message is displayed once we submit the form. Alright, before we finish this lecture, I want to add one more thing to the text area elements. If we insert here a large text, then the ugly default scroll bar will appear. I'm going to grab some dummy text from Lorem Ipsum website. Let's generate some paragraphs here. I'm going to copy this text. Let's add it here. So as you can see, we have here this ugly scroll bar. So I'm going to get rid of this scroll bar from here. For that, we have to select text input, followed by WebKit scroll bar, and we have to add here display none. So now, as you can see, we no longer have here the scroll bar, but the text is scrollable. Okay, let's add here the title. Then select an image. Click submit. We have here a submission message and we are navigated back to the news component. Okay, great job everyone. In this lecture we successfully implemented the functionality to display a submission message and validate the form fields in our blog component. We created state variables to manage the validation status and added logic to ensure that users provide a valid title and content before submitting a post. We also provided visual feedback to the users by conditionally applying CSS classes to the input fields based on their validation status. In this lecture, we're going to take our project one step further by saving the blog post in the local storage. This will ensure that our blog posts persist even if we refresh the page or close the browser. So let's dive in. The first thing that we have to do is to update the setBlocks function in the app component. So let's go to the app component. As you remember, we have here handle create block function in which we update blocks state variable. Now I'm going to modify slightly this function here. So I'm going to open curly braces. Then I'm going to create here the variable. Let's call it updated blocks. It should be equal to this array here. So here, as you remember, we copy all the existing blog posts from the previous blocks array into the new array. We then add the new blog post to the end of the array. This ensures our new blog post is included in the updated list of blocks. Next, we have to save blog posts in the local storage. We have already used local storage in our project when we were working on bookmarking the news. Now we need to use the exact same technique to store the blog posts in the local storage. So here, right after this line of code, I'm going to use local storage object. Then we need setItem function. Then we need blocks. And here we have to use JSON.stringify. And I'm going to pass here updated blocks. So here we use the local storage.setItem method to save our updated list of blocks in the local storage. The local storage object allows us to store data in the browser. We convert the updated blocks array to a JSON string using JSON.stringify method. This is necessary because local storage can only store strings. By saving our blocks in the local storage, we ensure that they persist even after a page refresh or browser restart. Finally, we need to return updated blocks. We return updated blocks array from our arrow function. This return value will be the new state of the blocks array. By returning the updated blocks, we ensure our component re-renders with the latest list of blog posts. Next, we need to load the saved blog posts from the local storage when the component mounts. We will use the useEffect hook for this. So again, when our component first mounts, it is rendered for the first time, we want to load any previously saved blog posts from the local storage. This ensures that our application has access to any data that was stored during previous sessions. So we have to use useEffect hook. We have to pass here a callback function. And then we need an empty array. This is a dependency array. The empty dependency array indicates that this effect should only run once when the component mounts. This ensures we load the saved blog post only when the component is first rendered. Now inside here, I'm going to create a new variable. It's going to be saved blocks. I'm going to use here JSON.parse method, in which we have to insert local storage .getItem, and we have to indicate here blocks. Besides that, I'm going to use here OR operator followed by the empty array. All right, So we use here local storage.getItem to retrieve the item with the key blocks from the local storage. The retrieved data is in string format, so we use json.parse to convert it back to the JavaScript array. If there are no saved blocks in the local storage, getItem will return null. In that case, we use the logical OR operator to default to an empty array. Now we have to update the blocks state variable, and here I'm going to use setBlocks function, and I'm going to pass here saved blocks. We call the setBlocks function to update the state of the blocks array with the saved blocks array we retrieved from the local storage. This ensures that our component re-renders with the saved list of block posts, effectively loading the blocks from the local storage. Alright, so that's it. Now I'm going to test if everything works fine. First, I'm going to create new blog post. Let's upload the image. Then add here title. As the content, I'm going to insert test. Let's submit button. So as you can see, we have here the blog post displayed in the My Blog section. Now if I refresh the page, then the blog post will still be displayed in the My Blog section. Now if I inspect the page and switch to application, in the local storage you will find here blocks in which we have our newly added blog post. Okay, so everything works perfectly. Great job everyone. In this lecture we successfully implemented the functionality to save our blog post in the local storage. We modified our setBlocks function to store the updated list of blocks in the local storage, and also used the useEffect hook to load the saved blocks when the component mounts. In this lecture we are going to enhance our application by displaying blog posts in a model. This will allow us to view the full content of a blog post in a pop-up window, providing a better user experience. So let's get started. The first thing that I'm going to do is to create new component in the components folder. It's going to be blocks model.jsx. Then inside here we're going to create a functional component using this shortcut. After that, let's open news.jsx file and import blocks model component. We need here blocks model from blocks model. Then in order to render this component we have to pass it here in the My Blocks section. So here I'm going to nest blocks model component. All right. After that, let's go back to the blocks model component and create the JSX. I'm going to delete this text from here. So as you know, we already have a couple of models in this project. So we will be using the same styles for this model as well. So therefore, I'm going to add to the elements the similar classes that we already used in the previous model boxes. So the first development will have class name model overlay. Then I'm going to create new development with the class name model content. Inside this development we need closing button, so I'm going to open span element with the class name close button, in which I'm going to insert a font awesome icon with the classes fa solid, fa xmark. Next I'm going to create image. Right now I'm going to import demo image from assets, then images, and we have to select here demo.jpg. Then I'm going to change the source of the image. It's going to be demo image, and also let's change the alt attribute. I'm going to insert here model image. Besides that, I'm going to add here a class name. It's going to be blocks model image. So if we check the browser, then we will get here model, which already has some styles. Now let's go ahead and add a couple of different elements to the model. The next element is going to be h2 with the class name blocks model title. Right now I'm going to insert here lorem ipsum dummy text. Let's say 8 words. After h2 heading element, we need paragraph with the class name blog post content. And I'm going to insert here a large text, let's say lorem 200. Actually, I need here 200 words. So here we go. Okay, so I think that's it about the JSX. Let's go to the browser. So we have here image, the heading, the title, and also the content. All right, now we have to customize model box. For that, I'm going to create a new CSS file. It's going to be blocks model.css. Then we have to move this file here. I'm going to close blocks.css file. Also, we don't need this file as well. Now I'm going to import CSS file. We need here the directory. Let's select blocks model.css. All right, so once the CSS file is connected, now I'm going to add here some styles. Let's select blocks model image. I'm going to set max width to 100%. Then we need height to be 60%. Also, I'm going to fit the image using object fits cover. Then let's make the image rounded using border radius. It's going to be 1 rem. And finally, I'm going to decrease the opacity. Let's make it 0.5. Now let's check the result. So as you can see, the image looks pretty nice. Next, I'm going to customize the title. So I'm going to select blocks model title. First of all, let's change the font family. I'm going to use font called BBAS New E sans serif. Then I'm going to add here font size. It's going to be 3 rem. Also, we need color. Let's make it white. And then we need letter spacing. I'm going to make it 0.1 rem. And lastly, I'm going to create some space at the top of the title using margin top with the value 2 rem. Okay, so as you can see, the title looks pretty nice. Next, we have to customize the paragraph. So let's go ahead and select paragraph using class name, blog post content. First of all, I'm going to change the font family. Let's use Comforta sans serif. Then I'm going to change the font size. It's going to be 1.4 rem. Also, we need here color. Let's make it B, and then create some space at the top side using margin top with the value 1 rem. Let's check the browser. So we have here the text, and I'm going to make the text partially hidden, and also we need to make it scrollable. So for that, I'm going to add here overflow y with the value scroll. Then we need max height with the value 20 rem. Let's check the browser. So as you can see, now we have here the scroll bar and the text is scrollable. Actually, I don't want to display this ugly default scroll bar. So let's go ahead and make it hidden. I'm going to select paragraph again. Let's copy the selector and then add here WebKit scroll bar. Let's make it hidden using display none. So as you can see, the scroll bar is hidden, but the text is scrollable. Alright, so our model box looks pretty nice, and now we have to make it functional. Let's go back to the VS Code. So I'm going to open news.jsx file. So here we're going to create two state variables. The first one is going to be selected post. Let's add here updater function set selected post. Then we need useState hook, and the default value is going to be null. So the selected post state variable is used to store the currently selected blog post that the user wants to view in detail. Initially, it is set to null, indicating that no post is selected. When a user selects a blog post by clicking on it, set selected post will be called with the details of that post, updating the state. So the selected post state is essential for displaying the details of a specific blog post in a model. When selected post is updated with a blog post, the model can use this state to render the appropriate content. Next, we need to create another state variable, which is going to be show blog model. Then we need set show blog model. We need useState, and then the Boolean value, by default false. So this state variable is a Boolean that determines whether the blog post model is visible or not. When a user selects a blog post, set show blog model will be called with true to display the model. Conversely, when the user closes the model, set show blog model will be called with the false value. Now we're going to create two functions for managing the display of blog posts in a model. These functions will allow us to open the model when a user clicks on a blog post and close it when the user is done viewing the post. So let's go ahead and create new function here. It's going to be handle blog click. I'm going to pass here blog. So we declare here an arrow function with one parameter, blog. The blog parameter represents the blog post that the user clicked on. Next, we need to update selected post. So we need here set selected post, and we have to pass here blog. So we call set selected post with the blog parameter. This updates the selected post state to the blog post that was clicked. By doing this, we store the details of the selected blog post in the state, making it available for the model to display. Next, we need to update show blog model state variable. So we need set show blog model. We have to make it true. So this line of code sets the show blog model state to true, indicating that the model should be displayed. By updating this state, we trigger the rendering of the model component. So in summary, by creating handle blog click function, we capture the user's interaction with a specific blog post, update the state to store the selected blog post details, and trigger the model to display the full details of the selected blog post. Next, we have to create the second function, which will be used to handle the event. When a user closes the model, it will reset the state to hide the model and clear the details of the selected blog post. So we need to create a new function. It's going to be close blog model. We need here an arrow function. And then we have to update show blog model state variable. We need set show blog model. We have to make it false. So this line of code sets the show blog model state to false, indicating that the model should be hidden. By updating this state, we remove the model component from the view. Next, we need to update selected post. So we need to set selected post, and we have to add here null. So this line of code resets the selected post state to null, effectively clearing the details of the blog post that was previously selected. By doing this, we ensure that no blog post details are lingering in the state when the model is closed. So by creating close block model function, we handle the user's action to close the model, hide the model from the view by updating the state, and clear the selected blog post details to reset the state and prepare for the next interaction. Alright, so next we have to render the blocks model conditionally, and we have to pass some props to this component in order to use them then in the blocks model component. We're going to write the code that will ensure that the model displaying the blog post details is shown only when a blog post is selected and the model should be visible. So here, down below, we have blocks model nested inside the My Blocks section. So now I'm going to open curly braces, and we have to pass here selected post. Then we need an operator followed by show block model state, and again an operator. So this expression checks whether both selected post and show block model are truthy. Selected post state variable holds the details of the currently selected blog post. It is truthy when a blog post is selected and has content, otherwise it is null. Show block model state variable is a boolean that indicates whether the model should be displayed. It is true when the model should be shown and false otherwise. The AND operator ensures that the content inside the parentheses is rendered only when both selected post and show block model are truthy. Now, inside here we have to insert blocks model component, and then I'm going to add here a couple of different props. The first one is going to be show, which will be equal to show block model. So we pass the show block model state as a prop named show to the blocks model component. This prop indicates whether the model should be visible or hidden. Next we need another prop called block. It's going to be equal to selected post. So this prop provides the details of the currently selected blog post that should be displayed in the model. And finally, actually we need here show. Finally, I'm going to insert here onClose prop, which will be equal to close blocks model function. Actually, it is close block model. Okay, so this prop provides a way for the model to trigger the closing action when the user decides to close the model. The close blocks model function will be called to hide the model and reset the selected blog post. Next, we have to pass onClick event handler to the blog post elements. I mean this element here. Once the user clicks the blog post in the My Blog section, the model should display. So we need here onClick event handler, and we have to pass here an arrow function. Then we have to call handle block click with the argument block. Okay, so that's it about the news.jsx file. Now we have to go to the blocks model component, and here we have to pass the props that we used a second ago. So we need here show, then block, and onClose. Now we have to create an if statement which will be used to conditionally render the model content based on the show prop. So we need here if, then the condition will be not show. We used such if statements previously, so I hope you remember. Then we need return null. So let me explain once again what this if statement does. So it checks the value of the show prop using the condition not show. Not show is a negation of the show prop. If show is false, then not show will be true, and the code inside the if block will execute. As for the return statement, returning null in a React component means that the component will render nothing. This effectively prevents the model's content from being rendered when the show prop is false. So in summary, by using this if statement, we avoid rendering the model's content when it is not needed. Now, let's go to the browser, click So we have here the model. Right now, we don't have here the dynamic data. We have the hard-coded data, but we'll fix that soon. Now I'm going to make this button functional. Now when I click here, nothing happens. So we have to make this button functional. I'm going to add to the span element on click event handler. And we have to pass here on close prop. So we need here on close. Now, if we open the model, then click X, it will hide. Alright, so everything works perfectly. The next thing that we have to do is to update the image. We need to render image conditionally. We have to render it only if the block.image property is truthy. This ensures that the image is displayed only when there is a valid image URL provided for the blog post. So here I'm going to open curly braces, and we need the following: blog.image followed by the and operator, and we have to pass here this entire element. Now instead of this demo image, we need image, actually blog.image. As for the alt attribute, I'm going to add here blog.title. In the same way, I'm going to update the title and the content. So instead of this hard-coded text, I'm going to add here blog.title. And then instead of this text here, I'm going to insert blog.content. Now, if we go to the browser and open the model, we will get here the actual content of the blog post. Let's add new blog post, upload different image, let's say this one, then add here title, and also I'm going to add here some text. Let's click submit. Then once we navigate back to the news component, we'll get here the second blog post. If I click it, then we will get the content of the blog post, the image, the title, and also the content of the post. All right, so that's it. In this lecture, we successfully implemented the functionality to display our blog posts in a model. We can now view the full content of a blog post in a pop-up window, enhancing the user experience. In this lecture, we will be focusing on editing and deleting blog posts. This will allow users to modify their existing posts or remove posts they no longer want. By the end of this lecture, you will have a fully functional blog section where users can create, edit, and delete their posts. So let's get started. Before we dive into adding the editing feature, I want to add one thing to our application. Local storage, where we are saving our blog post, has a limited capacity of about 5 megabytes. This means that if users upload very large images, we can quickly run out of storage space, leading to potential errors and a poor user experience. So it is important to address a potential issue with the size of the images users can upload for their blog posts. To prevent this, we can add a check to ensure that the uploaded image doesn't exceed a certain size. In our case, we will limit the image size to 1 megabyte. This way, we can better manage our local storage space and ensure smoother performance for our application. So, first of all, I'm going to create a new variable here inside the if statement. It's going to be file. I'm going to make it equal to e.target.files, and we have to select first file using 0, which is an index number. Now, after this variable, I'm going to create another one. It's going to be max size, and I'm going to make it equal to 1 multiplied by 1024 multiplied by 1024. So here we define a variable max size which represents the maximum allowed size for an uploaded image. We set it to 1 megabyte. The calculation 1 multiplied by 1024 multiplied by 1024 converts 1 megabyte into bytes, as file sizes are usually measured in bytes. Now after that, I'm going to create an if statement in which we have to compare the size of the file to max size. So we need file.size is greater than max size. So again, this if statement checks if the size of the uploaded file exceeds the maximum size we defined earlier. The file.size property gives us the size of the file in bytes. So if this condition is true, then we have to alert the following text: file size exceeds 1 megabyte. And then we need return. So if the file size is larger than the allowed maximum size, we alert the user with a message saying file exceeds 1 megabyte. Then we have return statement. The return statement stops the execution of the function, preventing the oversized file from being processed or uploaded. Now down below we can change this code into file. So by adding this check, we can ensure that users only upload images that are within a manageable size, helping us to better utilize the available local storage space and maintain the performance and reliability of our application. Now let's go to the browser and test if it works. I'm going to create new blog post. Let's try to upload larger image. So as you can see, we get here file size exceeds 1 megabyte. If we try again, upload this image and submit the post, we will get here the post, but with a placeholder image. Alright, so everything works fine. Now it's time to start to work on the editing functionality. First of all, we have to create the state variables. These state variables will help us keep track of which blog post is being edited and whether we are currently editing. This is essential for toggling between the creation and editing modes. So I'm going to go to the app.jsx file, and here I'm going to create new state variable. It's going to be selected post, and then we need to set selected post function. It should be equal to useState, and I'm going to set the value to null. So the selected post state variable is used to keep track of which blog post is currently selected for editing. When a user clicks on a blog post that they want to edit, this state will store the specific blog post details. We initialize selected post with null. This means that by default no blog post is selected for editing. When we call setSelectedPost, the selected post state will be updated to the specified block. Next, I'm going to create another state variable, and it's going to be is editing. Then we need set is editing. I'm going to make this state variable equal to useState, and we need here false. So the isEditing state variable is a boolean that indicates whether the user is currently in editing mode. When isEditing is true, the application knows that the user is in the process of editing a blog post. We initialize isEditing with false. This means that by default the user is not in editing mode. When we call setIsEditing with a value true, it means the user has started editing a blog post. Conversely, calling setIsEditing with false means the user has either finished editing or canceled the edit operation. Next, we have to modify the handle createBlog function, I'm in this function here, to add the functionality of editing blog posts. Previously, this function was only responsible for creating new blog posts. Now we want it to handle both creating new posts and updating existing ones. This ensures that we don't need a separate function for editing, streamlining our code and making it more maintainable. So now here I'm going to add another parameter. It's going to be isAdded. We are adding here second parameter, and it is a Boolean flag indicating whether we are creating a new post or editing an existing one. When it is false, we are creating a new post, and when it is true, we are editing the existing post. Now we have to update this code here. Right now we have here variable updated blocks, which equals to an array. I'm going to modify this code. So here I'm going to add isAdded. Actually, we need here a camel case. Then we need a ternary operator. If isAdded is true, then we need pref blocks followed by the map function. Then we need to add here a callback function with parameter block. And we have to return block equal to selected post. Then we need again a ternary operator, new block or block. Next we need column, and then we need here this array. All right, so let me explain what's happening here. So if isAdded is true, we use the map function to iterate over the pref blocks array. For each block in pref blocks, we check if it is the same as the selected post. If it is, we replace it with new block. If not, we leave it unchanged. If isAdded is false, we create a new array by spreading pref blocks and adding new block to the end. This means that we are adding a new block post. Let's consider the map function part. This part iterates through the existing block posts. If the current block is the one selected for editing, it replaces it with the updated new block. Otherwise, it keeps the existing block. As for the array part, this part creates a new array that includes all previous block posts and appends the new block post at the end. Now, here I'm going to add set is editing, and I'm going to make it false. And then we need set selected post. Let's make it null. After successfully creating or updating a blog post, we need to exit the editing mode. Setting isEditing to false ensures that the application knows we are no longer editing a post. In the same way, after successfully creating or updating a blog post, we need to clear the selected post state. Setting selected post to null indicates that no blog post is currently selected for editing. Next, we have to create a new function. This function will be designed to enable the editing mode for a selected blog post. When a user clicks the edit button for a blog post, this function will set the appropriate status to display the editing form populated with the blog's current data. So right after this function, I'm going to create a new one. Let's call it handle edit blog. I'm going to insert here a parameter block. And now inside the function, I'm going to update selected post using set selected post function, and we have to pass here block. So here we set the selected post state to the blog post that the user wants to edit. By storing the selected blog post in selected post, we can prefill the editing form with the blog's current content. This ensures that the user can see and modify the existing content of the blog post. After that, we need to update isEditing state variable using set isEditing function. We have to make it true. So by enabling the editing mode, the form can adjust its behavior to update an existing blog post rather than creating a new one. This state is used within the form submission handler to determine whether to add a new blog post or update an existing one. Next, we need to update show news state variable using set show news function, and we have to make it false. So this line of code ensures that the news section is hidden, making space for the blog section to be displayed. This switch in views is essential to focus the user's attention on the block editing form. Now we need here set show blocks with the value true. This makes sure that the block section is displayed, which contains the form for editing the selected blog post. By setting show block to true, we ensure that the user is presented with the appropriate interface to edit their blog post. Now here down below in handle back to news function, we have to add set is editing, and we have to make it false. By resetting the is editing state, we ensure that the application exits the editing mode. This is important because when the user navigates back to the news section, we no longer need to indicate that an edit is in progress. This prepares the application for future block creation or editing actions by starting with a clean state. Also, I'm going to add here set selected post, and we have to make it null. By resetting the selected post state, we clear any reference to the blog post that was being edited. This ensures that no blog post remains selected, preventing any unintentional editing or display issues when the user navigates back to the blog section in the future. This also helps in properly initializing the form for creating a new blog post without any pre-filled data. Next, we have to add some props to the news and blogs components here. So I'm going to add to the news component on edit blog, which should be equal to handle edit blog function. So handle edit blog is the function that initiates the editing process for a blog post. It sets the selected post for editing and switches the view to the blog section. Inside the news component, this function will be triggered when the user clicks the edit button for a blog post. This allows the application to transition from viewing the blog list to editing the selected blog post. Now we have to add a prop to the blogs component. It's going to be edit post, and we have to make it equal to selected post. This prop is added to the blogs component to pass the currently selected blog post that is being edited. Selected post holds the blog post data that the user has chosen to edit. This data is used to prefill the form fields in the blogs component with the existing title, content, and image of the selected blog post. The edit post prop will be used to determine whether the form should be prefilled with existing data or be empty. This ensures a seamless editing experience for the user. Next, we have to add here another prop. It's going to be is editing, and we have to make it equal to is editing. This prop is added to the blogs component to indicate whether the user is currently in editing mode. Is editing is a Boolean state that determines whether the form in the blogs component should be in editing mode. When is editing is true, the form is set up for editing an existing blog post. When is editing is false, the form is set up for creating a new blog post. The is editing prop will be used to conditionally render parts of the form and control form submission behavior. It helps the component distinguish between creating a new post and editing an existing one. Alright, so that's it about the app component. Now we have to move on and modify the blogs component. Let's open this file. So first of all, I'm going to add the props to the function. We have here two props passed in the function, and I'm going to add here edit post and then is editing. Now we're going to use a use effect hook because it allows us to run side effects in our functional component. Specifically, we need this hook to react to changes in the is editing and edit post state variables. By using use effect, we can ensure that when the editing mode is activated, the form fields are automatically populated with the data from the blog post being edited. Conversely, when we are not in editing mode, the form fields are reset. This ensures a smooth and responsive user experience where the form always reflects the current action, whether it is creating a new post or editing an existing one. So here I'm going to create use effect hook. As you know, we have to pass here a callback function and then a dependency array. For now, I'm going to make it empty. Now, inside the use effect hook, we have to create an if statement where we have to check is editing and edit post. So this conditional check evaluates whether the component is in editing mode and there is a blog post to edit. If both conditions are met, it means the user is editing an existing blog post. Next, we need to set the image, title, and content state variables to the image, title, and content of the blog post being edited. So we need here set image, and I'm going to add here edit post dot image. Then we need set title, and in the same way we have to pass here edit post dot title, and then finally we need set content. We need here edit post content. Besides that, I'm going to add here set show form, and we have to make it true because we have to display the form. Alright, so these updates ensure that the form is pre-filled with the data from the blog post being edited. Next, we need an else statement where we have to reset form fields for new post. So we need else statements where we have to pass these functions. The image is going to be null. As for the title and content, we have to make both state variables empty strings, and also we have to hide the form. So let's make show form false. Besides that, we have to add in the dependency array is editing and also edit post. So the dependency array specifies that this effect should rerun whenever is editing or edit post changes. This ensures that the form updates correctly when switching between editing an existing post and creating a new one. So in summary, by adding this use effect hook, you ensure that the form in the blogs component is correctly pre-filled with the data of the blog post being edited and reset when not in editing mode. This step is crucial for maintaining the logical flow of the editing functionality in your application. Now we have to add is editing in the handle submit function, this function here, as an argument to the onCreate blog function to differentiate between creating a new blog post and updating an existing one. So here we have to pass is editing. By passing is editing to the onCreate blog function, we inform it whether the current operation is creating a new blog post or editing an existing one. This helps the function handle both scenarios appropriately. Without this flag, the function wouldn't know if it should look for an existing post to update or simply append a new post to the list. Now we have to go to the news.jsx file and we have to make the editing button functional. So first we need to pass here a prop on edit blog. As you remember, we passed this prop to the news component here. So now we have to find edit button in the my blog section. Let's get rid of this line of code. So here we have the button edit post. I'm going to add here onClick event handler. We have to pass here a callback function with onEdit blog prop, and we have to pass here blog. All right, let's go to the browser, click edit button. So here we go. We have here the content of the post. I'm going to change the title, then submit post, and as you can see, the first post is edited. All right, so everything works perfectly. Now let's go back to the blocks component and update the JSX. We have to modify the h1 heading element. I mean this h1 heading element. We have here hard-coded text new post. Now instead of that, I'm going to open curly braces. Then we have to check if isEditing is true or false. We need a ternary operator. If it is true, it means that we are editing post, so we need here edit post. And if it is false, then we need again new post. So if we click edit button, then the h1 heading element will change to edit post. All right. Now in the same way, we have to update the submit button. So let's find submit button. Actually, I had here button all the time, but we need post, not button. So instead of this hard-coded text, I'm going to use again conditional rendering. We need isEditing. If it is true, then we need here update post. And if it is false, we need submit post. Let's go to the browser, click edit button. So as you can see, we have here update post. All right, so that's it about the editing feature. Now we have to manage deleting the posts. As you know, each blog post in my blog section has a delete icon. Once the user clicks it, we have to delete the blog from the my blog section and also from the local storage. So let's go ahead and add this functionality to our application. First of all, we have to modify the app component. So let's go to the app.jsx file. We have to create a function to handle the deletion of blog posts from our application. This function will remove the specified block from our list of blocks and update the local storage accordingly. So let's add here a new function. It's going to be handle delete block. We need here an arrow function. As the parameter, I'm going to pass here block to delete. So this function takes one parameter, block to delete, which represents the blog post we want to remove from our list. Now we have to update blocks using setBlocks function. Then we have to pass here an arrow function with prevBlocks parameter. So we call the setBlocks function, which updates the block state. We pass a callback function to setBlocks that receives the current state as its argument. This ensures we are working with the latest state when making our updates. Now I'm going to create a new variable. It's going to be updated blocks. It should be equal to prevBlocks dot filter. Then we need a callback function with the parameter block. Then we have to return block not equals to block to delete. So inside the callback function, we create a new array called updated blocks. We use the filter method on prevBlocks to remove the blog post that matches block to delete. The filter method returns a new array that includes all the blog posts that do not match block to delete. After updating the block state, we also need to update the local storage to ensure that the changes persist across page reloads. So we need here local storage, followed by setItem function. Then we need blocks, followed by JSON, not stringify. And we have to pass here updated blocks. So we use local storage setItem method to store the updated list of blocks in local storage. We convert the updated blocks array to a JSON string using json.stringify before storing it. Now after that, we need to return updated blocks. So finally, we return the updated blocks array from the callback function. This return value will be used to update the block state. So by following these steps, the handle delete block function efficiently removes a specified blog post from our list. It updates the application state and ensures the changes are reflected in local storage. This approach keeps our application state and local storage synchronized, providing a consistent user experience. Next, we have to pass this function to news component as a prop. So down below, we have to add onDelete block, and it should be equal to handle delete block. Now we have to go to the news.js file, and we have to pass this function here as the prop. We need onDelete block, and down below we have to update the JSX. So we have to find the delete button in my block section. Here we have the delete button, and I'm going to add here onClick event handler, in which we have to pass a callback function with onDelete block, and the argument is going to be block. Okay, let's go to the browser. Now I'm going to click delete button. So as you can see, the modal box is displayed. Once we close it, the post will be deleted. So actually the code works. The blog post is deleted, but we need to prevent opening the modal box. And for that, I'm going to modify this function here. So let's grab this code, then open curly braces, add here the function. And now we have to add e.stop propagation function. And also we need event object as the parameter. Actually, we need here parentheses. So I hope you remember how this function works. It will allow us to prevent opening the modal box. Now, if I click delete button, then the blog post will be deleted directly from the my blog section. All right. So I think that's it. In this lecture, we successfully implemented the functionality to edit and delete blog posts. Now users can not only create new posts, but also manage their existing ones by making edits or deleting them if needed. This completes our blog section. Let's take a moment to recap what we've accomplished in this section. We started by setting up the foundational structure for our blogs component, enabling users to create and submit new blog posts. We then added functionality to display a submission message and validate form inputs, ensuring that users provide both a title and content for their posts. Finally, we implemented the ability to save blog posts to local storage, making our application more robust and user-friendly, and also we added editing and deleting functionality. In the next section, we will focus on making our project responsive. This is an optional section where we will dive into CSS to ensure our application looks great on all devices, from desktops to mobile phones. If you're interested in learning about responsive web design, I encourage you to watch this section. You will gain valuable skills in creating flexible and adaptable layouts. However, if you prefer to skip this section, you can do so without affecting the core functionality of the application. I hope you are excited to continue our journey in building the News and Blogs application. In the previous section, we dove deep into creating the blogs part of our app, adding all those essential features that make it robust and functional. Now in this lecture, we're taking a step further by making our application responsive. This lecture is optional, so if responsive web design isn't your thing, you can skip it. But I encourage you to stay with me because you might discover some new and interesting techniques that could enhance your skill set. Responsive web design is incredibly important today, with users accessing websites on various devices, from large desktop screens to small smartphones. Ensuring that your application looks great and functions well across all these devices is essential. Mastering responsive web design not only improves user experience, but also makes you a more experienced and valuable web developer. So let's jump in and transform our project into a responsive application. Before we dive into the coding part, let's prepare our browser. I will open Developer Tools and switch to the responsive mode by clicking this icon here. So here I have set up the most commonly used screen sizes and devices. As you can see, we have here 6 different desktop screens. Then we have 2 tablet screens and 3 mobile screens. So we'll be checking our project on these screen sizes and devices to ensure it looks visually appealing and functions well across all breakpoints. So let's go ahead and check the project on desktop 2. So here, as you can see, the news part looks good. Now I'm going to check the blogs part. So it looks good, but I think we can customize this button here. Actually, I don't want to create a new breakpoint for this button only, so I will customize it by default. Let's go to the VS Code and open blogs.css file. Then I'm going to find post btn. So right now we have here font size with the value 2.5 rem. Instead of this value here, I'm going to use clamp function with the following values. When at the minimum value, it's going to be 1.4 rem. Then I'm going to add here a preferred value, 1.5 CQI. And also we need maximum value, which is going to be 2.5 rem. So this code will allow us to make the button responsive on different screen sizes. Let's check the browser. So now the button looks good. If we check it on different screen sizes, you will see that button is responsive. Okay, so let's switch to desktop 3. Now the blogs part looks good. Let's go to the news part. It looks good as well. Now I'm going to switch to desktop 4. As you can see, we have to make here some changes. So let's go to the VS Code, and first of all, I'm going to open index.css file where we have some global styles. I'm going to create new CSS media query where I'm going to specify max width as 1400 pixels. So first of all, I'm going to change the font size of the HTML element. Right now, it is equal to 62.5%. Let's select HTML and change the font size. I'm going to decrease the font size. Let's make it 59%. So this code will allow us to make all the elements a bit smaller. Now, as you can see, all the elements became smaller. And now we have to customize the news part. So let's go ahead and open news.css file. So I'm going to create CSS media query. We need again max width equal to 1400 pixels. First of all, I'm going to take care of the nav links. So let's go ahead and select these elements. Let's set row gap to 1 rem. Now, as you can see, all navigational links look good. After that, I'm going to customize new section. Actually, I'm going to make this section scrollable, and I'm going to change the grid layout. So let's go ahead and select new section. And we need here overflow hidden. Then I'm going to select news grid. Right now we have 3 columns and 2 rows, and I'm going to change this layout. So we need here grid, template columns. Then we need repeat function. We need 2 columns, each of them equal to 1 fractional unit. Let's duplicate this code. We need here rows, and then 3 and 1 fractional unit. And also, in order to make the element scrollable, we need overflow y equal to scroll. Okay, so as you can see, now the element is scrollable, and we changed the layout. Now we have 2 columns and 3 rows. Actually, I want to hide this scroll bar. I think it would be better. So let's go ahead and select news grid followed by WebKit scroll bar, and I'm going to add here display none. So now the scroll bar is hidden, but the element is still scrollable. Alright, so that's it about the news grid. Now I'm going to take care of the blog post. So let's go ahead and select blog post. I'm going to change the flex property. It should be equal to 0, 1, and then we have to use again calc function. We need 100% minus 0.6 rem. Let's recall the styles of blog post. So we have here blog post with flex property, and we had here 50% minus 0.6 rem, but right now we need the blog post to take up the entire width. That's why we have here 100%. Let's check the results. So now, as you can see, the blog post takes up the entire width. Actually, we have to hide this outer part of the blog post, and also we have to make this element scrollable. Let's go back to the VS Code and add here blog posts. We need overflow Y scroll. And again, I'm going to hide the scroll bar. So let's select blog posts, followed by WebKit scroll bar, and add here display none. Let's check the browser. So now the element is scrollable, and we no longer have here the outer parts outside of the element. All right, so I think that's it about the new section. Let's check the models. So everything looks good. Let's check bookmarks. So actually, I'm going to add here some of the news. As you can see, we have to customize the bookmarks model. I'm going to make it scrollable as well. And I'm going to add this code by default in the main code. So let's go ahead and open book. Actually, we need to open model.css. We have here model content. I'm going to add here overflow Y scroll. And then again, I'm going to hide the scroll bar. So we need model contents followed by WebKit scroll bar, and then we need display none. Now let's check the results. Open bookmarks model. Actually, now it's scrollable, but I think that we can decrease the height of the model. So right now we have max height 100%. Actually, I'm going to make it 90%. So I think now we have much better result. Let's check other models. I think that all of them look good. All right, so let's continue customizing our application. Actually, let's go back to the news.css file. Let's go to the browser. So I think that the application looks good on this breakpoint. Now I'm going to switch to desktop 5. Actually, I think that everything looks good on this breakpoint as well. Let's check the final desktop screen size, desktop 6. So I think we can make here some changes. Let's go ahead and create new CSS media query in the news.css file. I'm going to specify max width. Let's make it 1024 pixels. So on the breakpoint, I'm going to change the layout of news grid. Let's go ahead and grab this code from here. We don't need overflow Y scroll. So on that breakpoint, I'm going to make columns 1. As for the rows, it should be 6. Let's check the browser. So now I think that news grid looks pretty nice. Let's check the blog section. I think everything looks good. All right, so I think that's it about the desktop screen sizes. Everything looks good. Now we can move on and customize the application for tablets. So as you can see, we have to make here lots of changes. Let's switch to tablet 2 and go back to the VS Code. First of all, I'm going to open index.css file and create new CSS media query. So we need here max width to be, let's say, 900 pixels. Then we have to select news and blocks app elements. I'm going to set height to 100%. And also we need to specify max height. It's going to be 90 viewport height. Now the height of the application will change. Next we have to move to the news.css file and we have to create here new CSS media query. Max width is going to be again 900 pixels. And here I'm going to start with news. Let's change height, make it 100%. And also we need to make the application scrollable. So we need overflow Y with value scroll. And again, let's hide the scroll bar. We need here WebKit scroll bar. And then we have to add here display none. So right now we cannot scroll the application because we have to change the flex layout. I mean, we have to change the direction of the flex layout. So let's go ahead and select news content. I'm going to set flex direction to column. Then we need width to be 100%. Also, I'm going to change the height. Let's set it to 200 rem. As for the row gap, it's going to be 2 rem. Okay, so now we have changed the flex direction and the sections of the news part are placed vertically in a column, but we have to customize them because they look pretty ugly right now. So let's go back to the VS Code and select navbar. I'm going to set flex direction to row. Right now it is set to column. Then we need justify content, space between. Also, I'm going to set width to 100%. And then let's set height to 18 rem. So here we have the navbar. Now we have to customize the user. So let's go ahead and select user. I'm going to change the width. So we need here calc function, and I'm going to insert here 30% minus 2 rem. And also let's set height to 100%. So the user looks pretty nice. Next we have to customize the categories. So let's go ahead and select these elements. We need here categories. I'm going to set width to 70%. Then the height is going to be 100%. Also we need here flex layout, I mean justify content, center, and then align items. Center, we have to center the flex items inside the element. Also, we need some space using row gap equal to 1 rem. All right. After that, we have to customize the navigation links. So let's go ahead and select nav links. Actually, we need here nav links. So I'm going to set flex direction to row. Then we need flex wrap with the value wrap in order to place the nav links on different lines. And also I'm going to set justify content to center. All right, so now we have much better results. Now we need some space between the nav links. So let's go ahead and select nav link itself and set margin right to 2 rem. Okay, so that's it about the navbar. Now we have to customize the new section. So let's go ahead and select news section. Actually, we need section. So first of all, we need to define width. It's going to be 100%. Then I'm going to select news grid. We have to change the layout. I'm going to grab this code from here. So in this case, we need columns to be 3. As for the rows, we need 2. Let's check the browser. So as you can see, the layout is changed. We have here the headline. Right now, the new section doesn't look quite good, but it will be fixed once we customize those parts here. So let's go ahead and customize the next element, which is my blocks. I'm going to set width to 100%. Then I'm going to select blog post. And I'm going to change flex property. So we need here 0, 1, and then again calc function. And I'm going to add here 50% minus 0.6 rep. All right, after that, I'm going to customize the weather and calendar. I mean the wrapper of weather and calendar. So I'm going to place both parts side by side. I'm going to select weather, calendar. Let's set flex direction to row. And then we need column gap to be to run. All right, so now as you can see, the layout of new section is fixed and everything looks good. Next, we have to customize the weather and the calendar. So let's go ahead and open weather.css file and create here new CSS media query. Let's specify max width, which is going to be 900 pixels. So I'm going to select wrapper weather. Let's set height to 100%. Then we need search location followed by the input element. And I'm going to make width 32 rand. Okay, so the weather looks good. Now we have to customize the calendar. So let's go ahead and select calendar.css file. And I'm going to create, actually, let's copy this code from here. Let's add it here. Get rid of those elements. So I'm going to select calendar, which is the wrapper, and I'm going to set height to 100%. Okay, so actually that's it about the weather and calendar. Now we have to move on and customize blocks section. So let's go ahead and open blocks.css file and create here new CSS media. So we need here media query with max width of 900 pixels. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to get rid of this background from here. So let's go ahead and select blocks left and set background to none. And also I'm going to change the width. Let's make it 100%. Okay, after that, I'm going to take care of the image. So let's go ahead and select blocks left, followed by the image elements. I'm going to change the position. We need top position equal to 10%. Then we need right position auto. Also, we have to set left position to 50%. And in order to center the elements, we need to use transform, translate x function with value minus 50%. So now the image doesn't look as centered, but once we customize the blocks right part, then it will be centered. So I'm going to select blocks right. Then we have to set position to absolute. Then we need inset to be 0. And also we have to set width to 100%. Now if we check the browser, we'll find here that the image is centered. All right, now we have to change the position of the back button because it is placed outside of the application. So let's go ahead and select blocks. Actually, we need here blocks, close btn. Let's set the position to 10 rem. As for the right position, it's going to be 4 rem. All right, so that's it. Let's open form. As you can see, we have to customize the form element. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to create some space between the image and the heading. So let's go ahead and select blocks right form, set margin top to 18 rem. After that, I'm going to take care of the inputs. Let's go ahead and select title input. Then we need text input. I'm going to set width to 40 rem. Okay, so the form looks good. And actually, with the block section, we are done. I think that's it about the tablets. The application looks good. Let's check the bookmarks. Actually, I think that we can decrease the max height to 80%. Let's go to the news.css file. Actually, not news, but we need model. So I'm going to set max height to 8%. Now let's check bookmarks. Now I think that it's much better. Let's check other models. So I think everything looks good. Okay, so that's it about the tablets. Now we have to check the project for mobiles. As you can see, we have to make here lots of changes. Let's go ahead and open index.css file. I'm going to decrease the font size of the HTML element, so let's copy this code. I'm going to add here 500 pixels. As for the font size, it's going to be 55%. So again, the elements will become smaller. Next, I'm going to customize the news section. So let's go to the news.css file and create a new CSS media query. I'm going to set max width to 500 pixels. Then let's go ahead and select news header. I'm going to set padding to 0 and 2 rem. Then we need to customize the logo. Let's set font size of the logo to 3.5 rem. Next, I'm going to decrease the width of the input elements. So we need here search bar, followed by the input. Let's set its width to 18 rem. We need to decrease the width of the input element on focus as well. So let's go ahead and duplicate this code. I'm going to add here focus. And the width is going to be 23 rem. All right, so that's it about the header. Now we have to customize the navbar. So I'm going to select navbar. Let's set flex direction to column. And also I'm going to change the height. It's going to be 30 rem. All right, now we have to customize the user and then the categories. So I'm going to start with the user. Let's go ahead and select this element. Let's set width to 100%. Then we need minimum height, and it's going to be 40%. Next, I'm going to hide this text at all. So let's go ahead and select user, followed by the paragraph. And we need here display none. All right, that's it about the user. Now I have to customize the categories. So let's go ahead and select these elements. I'm going to set width to 100%. Okay, now I'm going to get rid of this heading at all as well. So let's go ahead and select nav heading and add here display none. All right, now we have to take care of the new section, the grid layout. So let's go ahead and select news grid. Then I'm going to grab this code. Let's change the numbers of columns and rows. So in this case, we need here 2 columns and 3 rows. Okay, so as you can see, now the grid layout looks good. Next, I'm going to customize the weather and calendar. I'm going to place them vertically in a column. So let's go ahead and select weather, calendar, and change the direction of the flex layout. We need flex direction to be column. I want to customize the footer as well. So let's go ahead and select news footer. Let's set min height to 8 rem. Then I'm going to change the flex direction. It's going to be column. Also, we need justify content center. And then row gap 1 rem. All right, so as you can see, the footer looks good. Actually, with the new section, we are almost done. I think we need some space between the headline and the navbar. So let's fix that problem. Let's add here margin bottom with value 2 rem. All right, so I think that's it. Everything looks good. Now I'm going to check the models. Let's check the news model. So I think everything looks good. Now let's move on to the block section. I'm going to make here slight changes. So let's go ahead and open blocks.css file and create new CSS media query. We need max width 500 pixels. I'm going to select blocks left followed by the image, and I'm going to set width to 10 rem. And also I'm going to change the width of input elements. So let's select title. Actually, I'm going to grab this code from here. Let's set width to 30 rem. All right, so I think that's it about the block section. And actually with this breakpoint, we are done. Let's check mobile too. So I think everything was good. And finally, let's check the last breakpoint, mobile 3. This is the smallest smartphone screen size. So I think we have to make here slight changes in the block section. So let's go ahead and select, actually not select, but create new CSS media query. I'm going to grab this line of code. So we need here 400 pixels. I'm going to grab this code. Let's set top position to 10%. Then I'm going to select blocks, close, btn, and change the position. Top position is going to be 6 rem, and then we need the right position. I'm going to set it to 3 rem. So the button is positioned nicely. Now I'm going to customize the input elements. Let's select text inputs and change its aspect ratio. We need here 5/2. And also I'm going to decrease the row gap. Let's select blocks form with visible class name and set row gap to rem. All right, so I think that's it. We are done with the block section, and actually we are done with the project. It looks responsive on all different screen sizes and devices. So great work, everyone. In this lecture, we successfully made our News and Blocks app responsive, ensuring that it looks stunning and works flawlessly on any device, from desktops to smartphones. This is a significant milestone as we near the completion of our course. I hope you are satisfied with the progress we've made and that you learned some valuable new techniques along the way. Making an application responsive is a crucial skill, and I hope you found this experience enjoyable. In our next lecture, we're going to dive into the world of the new React 19 update. We'll explore its new features and see how they can enhance our projects. When you're watching this lecture, React 19 might be the current version or maybe the older one, but anyway, I'm going to describe its features. So let's move on to the next lecture. In this section, we are diving into something super exciting, the upcoming React 19 update. When you watch this video, React 19 might be already a current version. So if yes, then don't worry, you can either watch it to remind what new features were added in the 19th version, or you can simply skip it. This update is packed with incredible new features that are going to revolutionize how we develop with React. So if you're a React developer or just curious about what's new, stick around because you will not want to miss this. Let's dive deeper into each feature and see how React 19 is going to make our lives as developers so much easier. First up, we have the new React compiler. This is a game changer for performance. The new React compiler automatically optimizes your code during the build process. This means it analyzes your components and makes them more efficient, leading to better performance without any extra work from you. By optimizing how components update, the React compiler reduces unnecessary re-renders. This means your app will be faster and more responsive. With fewer re-renders and optimized code, users will experience less lag and smoother interactions within your app. The reliability of the React compiler is proven by its use in large-scale applications like Instagram, ensuring it's ready for production use. Before React 19, developers had to manually optimize components using the memo function to prevent unnecessary re-renders. Memo is a higher-order component provided by React to optimize functional components. Memo only re-renders the component if its props change, reducing performance costs for components with expensive calculations. The new React compiler automatically optimizes components during the build process, reducing the need for manual optimization techniques like memo. This leads to cleaner code and improved performance without extra effort. Next, let's talk about server components and server actions. Server components allow certain parts of your app to be rendered on the server instead of the client. This can significantly improve load times and SEO. By rendering on the server, your application content is more accessible to search engines, leading to better SEO. Additionally, users experience faster load times since the server handles initial rendering. Server actions simplify how you handle asynchronous operations on the server, making it straightforward to manage data fetching and updates. Server actions enable more efficient data submissions and updates, reducing delay and improving overall app performance. Before React 19, data fetching and rendering were done on the client side using hooks like useEffect. This could lead to slower load times and less optimal SEO. And now in React 19, we have server components which allow parts of the app to be rendered on the server. This improves load times and SEO by delivering pre-rendered content to the client, reducing the need for initial client-side rendering and data fetching. React 19 also brings asset loading integrated with Suspense. With Suspense, assets like style sheets, fonts, and images are loaded in the background. This ensures that the page is displayed only when all necessary resources are ready. By loading assets in the background, Suspense prevents layout shifts and flickering, providing a smoother visual experience. This integration ensures that users do not see partially loaded pages or unstyled content, enhancing the overall user experience. Before, developers manually handled asset loading, such as images, within useEffect hooks. This could result in layout shifts or flickering as assets load asynchronously. Now React 19 uses Suspense to manage background loading of assets, preventing layout shifts and flickering. This ensures a smoother user experience as all necessary resources are ready before rendering the component. Managing document metadata just got easier. React 19 includes built-in support for managing document metadata such as titles, meta descriptions, and links. This feature simplifies the process of adding and updating these elements. With metadata management directly in React components, you can easily handle SEO-related tags, improving your app's search engine visibility. This built-in support eliminates the need for libraries like React Helmet, reducing dependencies and simplifying your code base. As I said before, developers used libraries like React Helmet to manage document metadata, such as titles and meta tags, which added extra dependencies and complexity to the code base. Now, React 19 introduces built-in support for document metadata, allowing developers to manage titles and meta tags directly within their components, reducing dependencies and also simplifying the code base. React 19 now supports web components, allowing you to use existing web components in your React apps smoothly. React 19 makes it easier to integrate and use existing web components within your React applications, promoting reuse and compatibility. By supporting web components, React 19 extends the range of components available for use, allowing you to include third-party elements easily. This support encourages a more consistent development environment where React and web components can coexist and complement each other. Before, integrating web components required manual handling, including importing and referencing the components within useEffect hooks, which could be inefficient. React 19 provides built-in support for web components, allowing them to be used directly within React components without additional setup, promoting reuse and compatibility. Next up is ref as a prop. Function components can now receive refs as props, simplifying how you manage references to DOM elements or component instances. This change reduces the need for solutions like forward ref, leading to more readable and maintainable code. With refs as props, the necessity for forward ref in many cases is eliminated, streamlining component development. So as I said before, React 19 handling refs in function components required using forward ref, adding extra complexity to the component structure. Now React 19 allows refs to be passed as props directly to function components, simplifying ref management and making the code more straightforward. We have also got some improvements to existing hooks useMemo and useEffect. These hooks have been improved to offer better performance and more control over their behavior, making state and effect management more efficient. The new use hook simplifies accessing context and fetching data, allowing for more intuitive and flexible component logic. This improvement means you can now use hooks conditionally within your components, making your code more dynamic and adaptable. Before, developers used hooks like useMemo and useEffect to handle memoization, and side effects, which could become complex in conditional scenarios. Now React 19 enhances hooks like useMemo and useEffect and introduces the new useHook, making state and effect management more efficient and intuitive, especially for conditional use. Lastly, let's talk about async transitions. The Transition API now includes support for asynchronous operations, enabling you to manage complex state transitions without blocking the UI. By handling transitions asynchronously, your app can update states without causing noticeable delays or interruptions to the user experience. This feature ensures that your UI remains responsive and interactive even during data fetching or other intensive operations. So, as I mentioned before, managing asynchronous state transitions required manual handling, often involving set timeout or similar techniques, leading to potentially unresponsive UI. The new Transition API in React 19 supports asynchronous operations, allowing state transitions to be handled smoothly without blocking the UI, and it ensures a more responsive user experience. And there you have it. Our News and Blogs application is now complete. We have built an amazing project together, packed with features like fetching live news from an API, creating and editing blog posts, saving data in local storage, and designing a user-friendly interface. It is a project you can truly be proud of and showcase in your portfolio to impress employers or clients. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all our future tutorials. Your support means so much to us and helps us continue creating high-quality, free content for this amazing community. Also, drop a comment below, let us know what you think about this project, what you'd like to see next, or if you have any questions. We are always excited to hear your feedback and ideas. Thank you for coding along with me, and I'll see you in the next video.